Is there going to be oh, there we go. Hey, it shows us recording.
Steven, 3,
Awesome.
2.
Welcome, everyone, to the Ion Canon Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Steven. If you're not familiar with our show, I think maybe we'll go do some quick introductions. So, hi, I'm Steven.
That's there. I'm Tom, by the way.
And I'm William. And we want to thank you for joining us at the Future of Star Wars and Disney Plus panel, part of Forcefest 2020. It's really exciting. It's too bad that Star Wars Celebration was canceled this year. However, we still have an opportunity to all get together and talk about Star Wars. So we appreciate all of you joining us both live and recorded later on. Before we get started, I think, Steven, there's a couple more housekeeping things I want to share.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to throw it to Tom because Tom knows more about it than I do. Thanks, William, for doing that live and putting me on the spot.
Well, and then thank you for putting me on the spot. This is basically what we're doing is it's for Make-A-Wish. So if you have an opportunity, please go ahead and make a donation to Make-A-Wish. Really appreciate they're doing that as a side thing for this because we all come together as a Star Wars community that we try to help others. So if you got the opportunity, go ahead and make a donation to Make-A-Wish.
Yeah,
and at this point, Steven,
these are going to the LA chapter of Make-A-Wish. So they can go immediately to start granting kids wishes, which is really great. You can do that. There's going to be links. Thanks, Amanda, for dropping the link in the chat. You can also go to the link bit.ly. That's bit.ly/ff. That's for Forcefest Make-A-Wish, FF Make-A-Wish, and donate. You can also go directly through Get Vocal as well, Vcoin, and I think they're going to match 33% of the donations, which is great.
Cool.
Awesome. So let's dive into the future of Star Wars on Disney Plus. Where do we even want to start? So for those of us who haven't, or those of you, I assume you two have listened to our podcast at some point. We are kind of a Star Wars podcast that focuses on Star Wars television. We've been going for, I don't want to, 2008, 12 years.
Yeah, we've been going for 12 years.
Yeah.
We have been 12 years.
So we reviewed the Clone Wars, and then we moved on to Rebels, and we've done some of the Lego specials, Mandalorian, and we're in that kind of little break right now. Clone Wars finished up for again, and then again, and then again. The Resistance just finished up. Mandalorian Season 1 is finished up, and now we are anxiously waiting for Season 2 of the
and all the other live action stuff that could be coming to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're in right now.
There's a lot of really cool stuff coming to Disney Plus. Before we dive in, let's just take a quick look at what we've seen so far. I mean, even in the last year, Disney Plus launched with The Mandalorian, and I think it was bigger than I think even Disney expected. It just took the world by storm, and it's been really cool to see just how many people, even just like in everyday life, as I was at work, were like, "Oh my gosh, The Mandalorian's incredible." People that never talk Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. It's really weird getting asked, like, Steven, what do you think of Baby Yoda? What's the backstory? I'm like, I know a little bit more than most people about Star Wars, but I don't have these answers. It's weird. And
I always go, it's like, it's the child. I understand the whole big thing about Baby Yoda, but it's the child. Even Filoni has said there's going to be a name to the child.
You will never win that battle, Tom.
I know I'm never going to win that battle. Even in my house, I never win this battle, but I got to try.
I also think, again, we'll get into this speculation on the future for the bulk of the show, but we'll start with kind of taking that look back. I think for the Baby Yoda, the child, or whatever you want to call him, has, I think, helped bring in a lot more Star Wars fans, or at least a lot more viewers that maybe not be Star Wars fans, which has really been cool to see. There's a lot of people I know that would never watch The Mandalorian or a Star Wars show normally, and we're like, oh my gosh, either part of the hype or from or the character of the child have brought new viewers in, and I think because of that, this has still been like Disney Plus's major show. Like they haven't quite had anything on this level yet, and they have a bunch of other stuff in the works, Star Wars, Marvel, other stuff. There's now trying movie launches on Disney Plus, but really it's been Star Wars that's kind of kicked it off and helped it go so helped Disney Plus grow so big so fast. And so that's been really cool to see.
I think something that's been really impressive to see, and this you can see this across multiple streaming services, but especially with The Mandalorian, I think it was really the first Star Wars show that didn't require you to really understand much else.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like Clone Wars kind of assumed you knew who the characters were. It kind of assumed you were familiar with what the Clone Wars were, what was going on. Rebels was kind of based and designed to go into episode 4. Mandalorian really starts with, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of its own, it starts off on the edge and it carves its own space.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd actually say in true Dave Filoni style, it starts off kind of on the edge and you're like, this is its own thing. And it very quickly starts to ramp into other familiar, I don't know, what would you call them? Sabers, maybe, or
well, and I think that was
and
and I think that was the best draw of the show. Is it was able to start out to where, let's say, a clean slate, very good storytelling, very good acting, and then as it started going along, it slowly brought you into the Star Wars universe. And then it was able to bring in a brand new audience into the Star Wars universe because people who started out didn't need to know all the backstory that we know when it comes to Mandalorians, that we know about the child, that we know about, Cara Dune's character when it comes to the Rebel Alliance. So it started the best way possible to bring in the audience.
Yeah, and I think that's really going to be the magic of Disney Plus going forward is when you're making a show for a streaming service, it doesn't have to have box topper numbers every single time when it opens or starts airing. You can make the more targeted shows. You can make the Clone Wars season 7 focused on people who've loved the Clone Wars and followed characters like Ahsoka from the beginning.
Yep.
I think that's really, when we talk about what the future of Disney Plus is going to be, I think to me that's what it means. It's a frontier for them to explore not just the big stories, but side stories or alternate stories, places that maybe aren't deserving of a movie, but can still be really, really fascinating.
Yeah, and actually, speaking with The Wrap recently, Kathleen Kennedy even said as much that she sees Disney Plus as being hugely integral to the Star Wars universe, and how it allows them to have shows that are more character driven with extended storytelling, connected storytelling, and really kind of try new things. It's really exciting, and as we've seen, there's already a really exciting lineup of shows coming to Disney Plus that we'll be talking about throughout the next hour. I know everyone's excited to talk about The Mandalorian. We're going to get to that. We're going to talk about Earth.
No, it's a lot, but
there's a great slate and a lot of very interesting rumors as well. Who knows how much of those will pan out, but I think there's a lot of potential for them to explore really interesting aspects of the Star Wars universe on Disney Plus. Some may be more broad appeal for anyone. Some may be more niche if we want to let people dive in.
Well, if you want to talk about niche, how about the Lego Star Wars special that's going to be coming out? I know you have to start
with the most important Star Wars special coming.
I know we're talking live action. I know we're talking Mandalorian, but you got to give something about a holiday special.
The Lego Star Wars holiday special.
Who saw that one coming?
Honestly, it might be. I might be more excited for that than The Mandalorian.
Really?
I don't think I am, but I might be.
Go ahead.
The holiday special has such. Sorry, let me start. The holiday special is awful. The original, I mean.
Everybody knows that, but
I need to start with there.
To it though.
There is. I mean, as my background obviously shows a little bit of Lego has a special spot for me to begin with. And the Lego games have been a great example. The Lego Star Wars shows have been a great example of the type of humor that they can inject into the Star Wars universe. And you're taking Lego and Star Wars, two things that are already fantastic, and now you're adding the holiday special. And I just think of the type of things we might get out of that episode.
Mm-hmm. And the Lego Star Wars series have all been really good. You might think, Lego Star Wars, okay, whatever. They're hilarious. And
Mott and Roth, when they did their show, was outstanding.
Yeah, Bill Motz and Bob Roth are fantastic, and they're not attached to this series, but a lot of people who worked on that were. The writer David Shane wrote for the Freemaker Adventures and Lego Star Wars All Stars, and so a lot of that talent is still going to be attached to the show. The fact that they're releasing it on November 17th, Life Day, is just. It's great. I love it.
That's looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like they're going to try to explore all the different eras and aspects of the galaxy. It's going to be focused on Rey and Foe and Rey Foe Pin Poe and Chewie Hawk. Some different Lego characters. When they
change them up a little bit.
Yeah, why not?
No, see, what happens is you take Poe's hair and you put it on top of Finn because they're hair pieces. You just disconnect it, and that's how you get Pin and Foe. It's very
exactly.
Well, like I said in the pre-show, I just want to have an Art Carney Lego and a art. Just give me Art Carney and I'll be fine.
But they're gonna. It sounds like there might be an aspect of like time. Let me just read the description, and then we'll talk about it. Set up the events of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So it's our side note. It's our first. I don't know if I could call it canon, but our first thing really set after the Rise of Skywalker. Rey leaves her friends to prepare for Life Day as she embarks on a new adventure with BB-8 to gain a deeper knowledge of the Force. At a mysterious Jedi temple, Rey finds herself hurled into a cross-timeline adventure through beloved moments in Star Wars cinematic history, coming into contact with Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and other iconic heroes and villains from the 9 Star Wars saga films. But will she make it back in time for the Life Day feast and learn the true meaning of holiday spirit? You'll have to watch to find out. Sounds great.
Just think the Lego hilarity that's going to happen through all of that right now.
Honestly, all I want to see is Lego recreations of original holiday special scenes.
Yep. Absolutely.
Like, let's get the Lego cooking show in the middle of the holiday special. Like, why not?
Be Arthur at the bar.
How many references do you think we'll get to like the original holiday special? Think they'll like lean into those or try to do like a Lego Be Arthur or
I would hope
a song maybe Life Day song?
So I think for sure we get the Life Day song.
Yep.
I don't know who they're going to convince to sing it. I think that'll be the real question. But we for sure get the Life Day song. Mike is mentioning Chewie's family. I agree. I think Chewie's family is probably going to show up because that was kind of the centerpiece of the original. I wonder, like,
God,
we could get some Mandalorian content. Like, I bet you. I'm trying to think because it depends on. I'm assuming it's not canon, right? Because I could see them doing a Mandalorian tie-in.
I don't think
I could,
but it's probably canon adjacent. Like
I would say, just like all,
yeah,
just like all the Lego stuff is going to be canon adjacent.
Yeah.
So maybe we get the Mandalorian to make an appearance at some point in like a redone Boba Fett animatic sequence.
Yeah. And, I don't. I'm trying to remember now. I don't think they've announced the full cast yet. We do know that Daisy Ridley and Oscar Isaac are very good at singing, as people in the chat are noting. We've seen them like sing together in other videos before. We'll see. I'm excited though. Like I think this could be a lot of fun. Like poking fun at the original holiday special for those of us who know it, and just being kind of a fun Lego Star Wars mashup.
I feel like. Go ahead, Steven.
I feel like poking fun at the holiday special is like the classic Star Wars fan pastime. Like almost more than anything else. Right. Like you've got like Star Trek versus Star Wars and poking fun at the Lego Star Wars, at the original holiday special. Like there isn't anything better.
I wonder almost if they take a break and do like a Mandalorian, a little Lego Mandalorian story, just like they did to introduce Boba Fett.
The original Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be very funny to see the child in his little Lego form do that whole little soup thing right there in the middle, do that as the break in the dead center where something happens? Like at the end of the Life Day song, when it's all said and done, you just see this cutaway to the little baby, the child, sip the soup and just kind of just sit there and like, okay.
Yeah, I think the child's got to show up, right? How do you not include the child?
It has to be.
Especially for a Lego holiday special where canon doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for the Lego Star Wars holiday special.
Oh,
that's what you said. What, November 17th, William? So not too far away.
Life Day. So we're coming up just a couple months away. That'll be a lot of fun. Continuing in the animation area, we got just a couple of weeks ago. Actually, we got a surprise announcement about the next animated series from Lucasfilm Animation, The Bad Batch. So the arc that we all saw unfinished right? At I believe it's a Celebration actually first, and they released it as one of the story reels, and then now it came out with the Clone Wars season 7 on Disney Plus. We finally saw it all finished. It was a great arc. We reviewed it on our podcast. We're now getting an entire series following these characters, and not just that. Not only do we get Hunter and Wrecker and Tech and Crosshair and Echo, which we'll have to talk a little more about now. It's also set after the Clone Wars ends. So the official description, it says the series follows the elite and experimental clones of the Bad Batch as they find their way in a rapidly changing galaxy in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars. Members of the Bad Batch, a unique squad of clones who vary genetically from their brothers in the Clone Army, each possess a singular exceptional skill, which makes them extraordinarily effective soldiers and a formidable crew. In the post-Clone War era, they will take on daring mercenary missions as they struggle to stay afloat and find new purpose. It sounds great.
Yes.
Like
it amazes me. How many years ago did that Bad Batch animatic come out? At Celebration, I think, right?
Yeah. I think we were all there when we saw it.
We went from
Anaheim, right?
That sounds right. Like it went from an animatic that we know, like, hey, this is what we were this close to being done with it, to not only did we finish it, but we upgraded it for the Clone Wars on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And now growing into its own series. And
Sharon makes a great point. It sounds like the A-Team in space in some ways.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I was sold before and I'm still sold.
I'm excited. Like
this, I mean, is it bad? One of the things I'm most excited for, honestly, is just, I think the show is just D. Bradley Baker, right? Like,
yeah.
You do you need anyone else? Like, you don't. It's just D. Bradley Baker talking to himself for.
There's going to be there's going to have to be other characters other than D. Bradley Baker. He's going to end up ruining his voice after probably the second episode.
But D is so talented.
Oh yeah, he's so talented. Just keep everybody straight.
And I think the opportunity to explore what it was like for clone troopers, and they're not your standard rank and file clone troopers for sure, but to see clone troopers, how they're surviving and dealing with the galaxy in a post Order 66 world or galaxy, I guess, is going to be really cool, right? Because they're not clones anymore, or are they? Like, what happens to them when the Empire takes over? Do they kind of like kick out the Bad Batch? Do they try to
let me ask Mike
some way, like get rid of them, or
do we go ahead?
I'm betting 75-25 that part of their story deals with Ahsoka surviving and moving past the Order 66. Like, what if the start of it is maybe Vader or someone else tasking the Bad Batch to hunt down rogue Jedi?
Good point.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, like what?
Good point.
Like, I guess I always assumed. Are they still? Because I wondered. I thought they might be like more like mercenaries at that point. Well, it does say they'll take on daring mercenary missions. So
it's true, and it's a question of, are they part of the Empire or not?
It doesn't sound like it, but
no. But also remember when it was during Star Wars Rebels and Ezra and Kanan and everybody went to go find, Rex and Gregor and Wolf. They were in contact with the Empire. So somehow they were retired from the Empire, because remember I think it was the second episode where they contacted the Imperials. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how this is going to work out. Remember in the Legends universe, there was that series of clone troopers that kind of went, well, not clone troopers, stormtroopers that went rogue, that Mara Jade ran into every once in a while. Is that how this show is going to be? To where they're, let's say, rogue clone troopers that are on the run from the Empire, because somehow they were able to get the chips out of their head. It's going to be fun to figure that out.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm really curious to see is, do we get something closer to the original Clone Wars in the sense of we do like 3-episode arcs, or is it more like, we'll talk about the Kenobi series in a moment, or is it more a single arc with a limited number of episodes?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's going to be a longer running series, maybe a season or two, maybe more. Mm-hmm. because they haven't explicitly said it's a limited run series, unlike Kenobi, which we'll get to next.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what they end up doing and what kind of characters they bring in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the opportunity now to bring in, like, do they bring in more of Rex and characters like Rex, or like Ahsoka, as you said, or just a couple minutes ago, Steven. Could Hondo show up? Right, there's a lot of potential for characters we've grown to know and love in Star Wars animation to show up. I hope we see. I hope the series starts off with them dealing with Order 66.
Yeah,
right. Like
that would seem so logical.
Through Order 66 again in the series premiere, and like what happens to them after that, and that kind of sets up the.
I'm trying to think, have we gotten much immediate post Order 66 content? I think the closest would be Fallen Order, maybe, which takes place. I mean, that's still a couple of years after Order 66, right?
The books and stuff that have covered it in comics, but like, I think this show has a lot of potential to explore that a lot more, and so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
It's
also,
I think
aftermath.
The thing I think I'm most excited about for Bad Batch is really that in so many ways it's already proven. Like the pillars of the show are already there. Like the characters have been previously established. I'd like to see their personalities go a little bit deeper. They're a little bit, like, understandably, like they each have their kind of one traits in the Bad Batch arc, because that's all you have time to like really learn about them. And I want to learn more.
Right.
But we've got the characters established. We've got a lot of like the animation and team, because they just came off of the Clone Wars, the second Clone Wars, whichever. And I think that's going to leave a lot of,
best way to put it,
the continuation of the Clone Wars.
Continuation's the best way.
That's a good question too. Like, what will the animation look like? Is it going to be the Clone Wars, or will they go with a different style?
I would hope it stays the same.
I think Clone Wars look, but I also know it's expensive.
Same.
Yeah. But I would look at it from this point of view. If you're doing CG, you've already got the characters, you've already got the rigging, you've already got the style. The only thing you need to do is basically create the brand new characters in the worlds. If your 5 main characters, here it is on screen, your 5 main characters, their models are already there.
Yeah.
So I would hope it would err on the side of, and look at how far the animation went from the original Clone Wars series all the way now to the final Clone Wars episode. I'm watching the Clone Wars in chronological order, and you can tell how advanced it got as it went along. So you would hope they would continue it.
My guess is that they will, because I look at the Bad Batch as, unlike Kenobi, unlike Cassian Andor, so much of the structure for that show already exists. Yep. And my hope is that gives them even more room to just tell amazing stories.
Yeah.
Which the Clone Wars, like, that's a skill they'd already started perfecting and done incredibly well at. And I expect to just see more of the same. Like the Bad Batch to me is the Clone Wars 2 Electric Boogaloo. Like
no, not the Electric Boogaloo part. No.
Okay, fine. Just Clone Wars 2.
And it's a little
Clone Wars 2.
It will
Clone Wars 2 Attack of the Clones. Sorry,
Attack of the Clones.
It'll be a much more focused show. Because the Clone Wars jumped around quite a bit, and we got to see different parts of the galaxy.
Yeah.
It sounds like this is going to be almost like the style of, more like the Rebels style in many ways. I would suspect, just kind of their adventures post Order 66, but it sounds great, and it's coming next year. I'm guessing next fall is when they premiere. Although now actually it's Disney Plus, so they could do it. And maybe they do a different time of year. I guess Star Wars animation is always premiered in the fall. They're not really tied to a particular schedule anymore, especially if they're doing the big marquee like the Mandalorian type shows in the fall. Maybe they do like summer or something.
Yeah.
It's whenever they want to release it. You look at it from that point of view.
I will say from a selfish perspective, like for those of you who have listened to our podcast before, we were doing the Mandalorian and the Resistance reviews at the same time. I would love if the Bad Batch does not come out at the same time as the Mandalorian, just for the sake of our lives.
I think, I think in the case of, and now I don't think we're going to see that happen as often. I mean, we could get to a point where there's so many Star Wars shows that they will start to overlap, but just from a just if you look at it from a business standpoint for Disney Plus, I'm sure they want to get people constantly subscribing, right? And they try to do their best over the last year, right? They had the Mandalorian, and that was until January, and then
they did the Master Series because that followed after it, right?
Right,
the one where they did. Yeah.
Well,
so that was a continuation to keep people subscribed, at least talking about Mandalorian.
Exactly. Yeah, they had like a month and a half, 2 month break, and then they went into the Clone Wars for 3 months, and then they 2.5 3 months. They took a break from that, and then they had Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian. In we didn't talk about that because it's not one of the Star Wars fiction shows, but it is fantastic.
It's great.
Disney
Get an opportunity to go see it.
If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's fantastic, and I hope they do more of those types of things too on Disney Plus. Honestly, for these different series. And the summer has been a bit of a lull, but we had like the release of Solo and the release of The Rise of Skywalker earlier in the year to kind of keep people and Star Wars fans interested in Disney Plus. But as we go into the rest of these series, some may be very short, but for the ongoing ones or even for the short ones, I'm sure they're going to want to slot them in such a way that you have one series and you have a break and another series starts up. So you're always you're always incentivized to keep subscribing and paying them that monthly fee.
The other advantage I think we're going to see is things like the Bad Batch, the Lego Holiday Special, especially right now. Those are things that production has certainly changed due to COVID, but they can at least continue production. You can't get as many people on necessarily into a cast and crew to film a live action show. I think Bad Batch will probably begin, I guess, actually in the earlier part of the year, and maybe they'll try and do. I'm assuming there's a Mandalorian season 3. That's maybe getting a little ahead of ourselves. But.
So
okay.
When they film it is a question. I know they barely
finished season 2.
With season 2. I think
they got very lucky.
They finished production 5 days before everything got shut down. So
I think that's what I read as well.
Yeah, it's
so let's march. Let's keep marching closer to Mandalorian season 2. But before we get there,
we have a Kenobi series coming up. We have
probably. I think this might be one of the most requested things out of the Star Wars fandom.
Yep.
It started as we want a Kenobi movie. That didn't end up happening, but we got a Kenobi TV show, and I'm okay with that.
And I actually think I prefer it in some ways. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I like the fact that it's going to be a 6-episode limited series, and
as it should be.
And this is the first time they've done explicitly set out this is a limited series, right, for Star Wars. But I like that personally. I'm a huge fan. I would love, as a Star Wars fan, I would love as much content as possible, right? And I would be like, yes, give me more, give me more, give me more. But as a fan of good storytelling, oftentimes I like it when they set out with a goal and they say, we're going to do 1 season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons, whatever it is. This is the story we want to tell. And when we here's the arc we're gonna follow. And they do this internally. Obviously, they don't always announce this, but and then we have funding for the whole thing. And then when we get to the end, we're done. And they could go out on top. They could be still the best show in the world, but they end in their prime rather than going on too long. And that allows them to tell a much more focused story as well. And it's basically like just a really almost in some ways sometimes a longer movie. I like that format, and I love that they're doing that with Kenobi.
Just going very high level for a moment, it's been really interesting to watch as companies like Netflix and Disney have tried to move closer to the HBO model in some ways, because HBO is, I'd say, almost famous in many ways for doing shows exactly like that. The limited series that, hey, we have a specific story we were going to tell, and we're going to go and tell just that story. And we'll do it with big budget. We'll do it with, movie budget, and we'll continue on. And I agree. That's what I'm envisioning for the Kenobi series is we have an idea for a story we want to tell. It is too long for a movie in some ways, 6, let's assume 45 minutes, 45-minute episodes, 6 episodes. Let's just go and tell that story to the best of our ability.
And we don't even know, it could be 30 minutes long, like The Mandalorian often was. They could be an hour long. We have no idea what the length is, but I love that they're going in. Well, they're not tied to a length on Disney Plus. One thing, and 2, they're just saying, here's the story, and they can get Ewan McGregor on board with that, and they're going to tell the story, and then they're going to end it. And I think that's perfect.
And I think it works and it worked very well with Mandalorian. It's going to work very well with Kenobi. I like how they let the story tell itself and they let the story breathe. They're not trying to push through it. And that's the best thing about having you go to a streaming service. You don't have to worry about a commercial break. You don't have to worry about a specific time that needs to be shot. You can just tell the story. And telling a story of Kenobi in 6 episodes, like we said, it could be a 30-minute episode just for part of the story. It could be a 45-minute or a 50-minute, but they can tell the story they want and they can get out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think the thing I'm fascinated to see, and I saw some comments in the chat about it as well, is what is the story they plan on telling around Kenobi? So the first possibility is, does Obi-Wan choose to leave Tatooine?
I think he stays.
Sometime between 3
I think he stays on Tatooine.
I think so too.
I think he has
My
to.
guess is similar to the Kenobi novel. I doubt it's going to follow it exactly, which is a fantastic novel.
Yep. John Jackson Miller.
Yeah, that was a great book.
But I suspect that it's going to be a story about why is Obi-Wan on Tatooine protecting Luke, and what does that look like? What does that mean? I expect we'll see Owen Lars, and knowing Star Wars and its love of let's try and explain every bit of backstory. Why does Owen not trust the crazy old man in the desert?
Good point.
I think about like the Maul Infinite story, which of course was like kind of not recreated exactly, but it is very similar to what shows up in Rebels. Of Owen's not a big fan of the type of trouble that Obi-Wan brings to Tatooine. But my guess is we're going to see something similar of Obi-Wan protecting Luke and Owen's farmstead in some way. Some threat that requires him to bust out of his hut out in the middle of the Dune Sea. Yeah. Or not? Is it the Dune Sea? Where is his hut? I'm trying to remember. I should know this.
No, I think they did say somewhere along the Dune Sea out there.
Okay.
Out there in the distance. Okay. You know,
Junlin Waste. Yes.
There you go. Junlin Wasteland. Thank you.
Traveled lightly.
So, touche, William.
I was going to say, before we get on to the next topic, let's not forget the Make-A-Wish.
Well,
so
yeah.
So just a reminder, this whole Forcefest thing is for the raising money for Make-A-Wish Greater LA. Your donation will directly fund wishes for critically ill children. You can donate at the link within the messages window, and or through Get Vocal, and Get Vocal will match 33% of the donations made. So go ahead, give it a shot.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the reminder, Tom, on that.
Yeah, so
it's
hard to kind of make sure because this is how we are when we do our podcast.
Before we move on, though, a couple more things about Kenobi. So one thing I'm really excited about is that it's going to be directed by Deborah Chow, and she did an amazing. Her episodes are some of the best episodes of The Mandalorian season 1. I am so excited for that. And it's also being written by it sounds like Joby Harold now is the new rumor, I think, replacing Hussein Amini. And I think it's going to be really great. There's no official release date for the series yet, but I think there's just so much potential for interesting stories. Like, I'm sure we're going to see classic characters of some sort, right?
We would have to.
Anakin, Cody. There's lots of different rumors.
Well, there is the rumor about Anakin. People want Anakin to show up in there, which to a certain extent does make sense. It would be cool to see Hayden Christensen at least play Anakin one more time.
Maybe like as a flashback or something,
something. And you can totally see it.
I can actually see it as it's a little bit of a trope, but the abandoned in the desert, you see visions and things like that. Like, this is also like things that are happening in Obi-Wan's life at this time. He is just coming out of his entire life being destroyed. His best friend that as far as he's aware, he's killed. And he's now a hermit living in a desert, cut off from everything that his entire life was about. Like, I would love to see him having kind of forced conversations with not real Anakin, but like as he's just processing, like, these are the things that have happened.
Yeah, and it's like 8 years will have passed. I think it starts 8 years after Revenge of the Sith. So there's a lot of time for Obi-Wan to like deal with a lot of this, but still have this unresolved emotion. I
have to imagine seeing your entire life fall apart takes a few years to get
long
over.
Long time, right? And I'm excited. I mean, there's still a lot of speculation. Really, there's very little we know about the show right now. But I think this, even potentially, like, just from a conceptual level, this is probably my most anticipated show. Having seen The Mandalorian, I know like how amazing and how incredible season 2 is going to be. So that makes me still very excited about that. But the Kenobi series is just, it's near the top of my list. And we don't know. There's no official announcements. The rumor is they'll start filming as early as next month. So we may, again, depending how everything goes with, COVID-19, obviously, but that's the rumor. So
yeah,
we'll see. Another series we don't know a ton about, but a bit, is the untitled Cassian Andor series. And this sounds like it's going to be a spy thriller, set 5 years before Rogue One. The official description is as follows. The untitled Cassian Andor series follows the adventures of rebel spy Cassian Andor during the formative years of the rebellion and prior to the events of Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Diego Luna will reprise his role of Cassian Andor. And, of course, we'll be getting some familiar faces, including Alan Tudyk as K2SO and Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma, it sounds like. So I'm excited about this one, too.
Didn't they bring somebody else on recently?
There's a bunch of rumors. It sounds like Skarsgård maybe joining the cast, Denise Go, Kyle Salt, and Adria Jorna, all rumored. Lucasfilm, I don't think has made any official announcements. It's going to be directed by Tony Gilroy, who co-wrote Rogue One, and he's writing it along with his brother Dan, and then Beau Willimon and Stephen Schiff. Beau was a writer on House of Cards, and Stephen Schiff worked on The Americans, two very, very well done shows as well.
Mm-hmm. I've heard good things about The Americans.
Yeah, they're it's a lot of talent on this show.
Yeah,
and I love like spies and thrillers and stuff. So getting a Star Wars spy thriller,
this should be fun.
I think this is. I kind of mentioned it while we were getting started. Like, this is, I think, what has the most potential for Disney Plus is to do shows like these that are different and feel different. Mm-hmm. Like, I really want this one not to be. I want it to feel like a spy thriller. Like, I want to see, like, even Rogue One kind of alludes to this. Like, you see at the very beginning, Cassian Andor is this, like, killing the informant. He's got a mission to do and he's going to accomplish it. Like, I want to see that just as an entire series. What is the beginning of the rebellion like? Like, how do they operate? How does he handle that kind of moral gray area that he's operating in? I think there's a lot of potential for this one.
And I think for me, that a lot of it was, if you go back to the Clone Wars, the different themes they brought into the Clone Wars. If they can start doing that within like these new live action Star Wars series, bring these different themes in, I think right now Disney Plus is probably the best place for Star Wars because they can do the experimentation, they can bring characters that we know, and they can tell great stories around those characters and make it all work before they go back and do the films.
Yeah.
And this is really a good example. You're taking a great example of a spy thriller with a really good character that came off of a really good movie and telling a story.
And the potential audience, I think, is a lot bigger.
Yes.
On Disney Plus, I think I think the bar is a little lower in some ways for people, and they can tell an incredible story. I mean, from like sometimes people are like, oh, is it really like, I don't know, if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, you're like, oh, I'll just try it, and you click play. You don't have to like.
Okay, good point.
I
From
want
that point of view,
good movie and take my family and pay a bunch of money, and it's one movie versus like, oh, I'll just watch a show. People are just very used to that now, and that's why I mean by the bar is lower for viewers to kind of join. Assuming you're a Disney Plus subscriber, it's really easy just to go check it out and see what it's like, and I think it's really it sounds really cool. I am very excited. For this one, there's some rumors that filming is going to start in November. So again, we'll see what happens, but it may not be that far off. I don't know. Any other thoughts on the untitled Cassian Andor series?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know a ton about it. Like we've got a lot of the cast, but we haven't heard a lot of details on it recently. So I'm curious to see when we start hearing more. I think.
See, that would have been interesting if we had Celebration this weekend. If this possibly would have been like one of those special announcements.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, we have this panel here about Cassian Andor.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's some questions in the chat. I believe Rebels took place between 5 BBY and like 0.1 BBY. So I think it went over the course of like 4 years. So it took a few years. So this will be right around the beginnings of Rebels.
Yeah. Over under on Saw Gerrera making an appearance.
I could definitely see it.
I could see that, you know what? Especially given the more ruthless aspect of it.
Yeah,
I could see it for sure.
Yeah. Because put it this way, he was in Clone Wars, he was in Rebels. Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah,
I guess he makes an appearance here.
Yeah, I think he'd have to. What about Jeddah too? I mean, there's many places they could go with this from Rogue One.
Well, and even like separate from Rogue One, I'm just excited about the opportunity to have more military stories, spy stories with the rebellion. And as we saw at the beginning of Rogue One, he was willing to do some go pretty far in order to help the rebel cause. And so there may be some more surprising things.
He alluded to that even at the end of Rogue One,
right? Yeah,
with all the guys that he took on to Scarif, he alluded to that because they all did that kind of stuff. So you do see right now, there's their story right there.
Yeah.
Speaking of shows we know very little about, this one is probably the
least.
There's the least info about this show of all of them. They actually announced this series at the bottom of an announcement where they also revealed that Taika Waititi is directing a Star Wars film. So they kind of snuck it in there as well in some ways. I think normally it would have its own headline, but Leslie Headland is writing, executive producing, and serving as showrunner for a new untitled Star Wars series. We really know nothing about it, right? It was announced in April. It's rumored to take part in a different place in the Star Wars timeline and have a female lead, and that's all we know. Like, there's very little info.
In some ways, I'm actually surprised they announced it without even a hook to it. Like every other announcement we've gotten has had like, this is the Kenobi series, this is the Cassian Andor series, this is the Bad Batch. Like all of it has kind of at least a known quality. Like even the Mandalorian was like, just by calling it the Mandalorian, that's the hook.
Yeah.
Didn't they kind of do the same thing with the Rain Johnson series? That if he was ever going to do the 3-episode movie, it was somewhere else in the timeline with no real specs.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that just that it's not part of the like main thing the main canon thus far doesn't tell us a ton.
Right.
We could be post episode 6. We could be pre episode 1. We could be post 9. It's hard to tell.
Mike in the chat makes a good point that I hadn't considered. I'd assume this was going to be a completely separate show with like, new characters and stuff. But I went back and reread the announcement yesterday or this morning, and they don't actually say much at all. And so it's very possible. It's very possible that we could actually be getting like there's rumors of a Ahsoka show, for example. Mm-hmm. It could be this is the show, where Ahsoka's off somewhere else in the galaxy, or it could be some other character we know well. So who knows? There's a lot of questions right now. Either way, I think it'll be exciting to see what they end up doing.
I actually like what Mike put in there. Afra, Dr. Afra might be interesting.
Yeah, she did just get the audiobook, which is really good. So
oh god, that's really good.
Yeah, but I think the show you've all been waiting for, and of course us as well, is The Mandalorian season 2, and it debuts in October, just a couple of weeks away. We don't have a final date yet, but we are so close.
Has anyone checked to see if the trailer dropped like while we've been talking? Yeah, what are the odds?
Pardon me, I'm going to go check. Just kidding.
but
I am gonna check. We'll see.
Okay, go ahead. Check.
It has not. I just looked. It has not dropped.
I
But
could have hoped.
originally, it would have been today had Celebration or yesterday had Celebration still happened. But I know things are difficult with them working from home. But man, I am so excited. Like we know that Pedro Pascal, Gina Carano, Carl Weathers, Giancarlo Esposito will all return. Of course, the child is going to be back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of interesting rumors as well. Again, they haven't announced a whole lot, but there's reports of, Jamie Lee Curtis joining the cast, Timothy Olyphant as maybe Cobb Vanth were some of the rumors, Michael Biehn maybe playing a bounty hunter, Tamara Morrison might be in the show. It sounds like
I would love to see that.
That would be, even if you were to pop up in the Kenobi series, I would love it, because that's the other rumor. Pop up the Kenobi series. There you go with Cody. Whoa.
Tamara Morrison is fantastic, and could be playing Boba Fett. And we did see some unknown bounty hunter with spurs approaching Fennec Shand at the end of episode 5, chapter 5. So it could be that. Could be a different clone or Rex. There's a lot of really good potential there.
Many.
Also rumored Katie Sackhoff as Bo-Katan.
Yes, I would love to see. I would be hands down. She shows up. I will be truthful. I would probably faint if she showed up on screen as Bo-Katan. I'd be like, yes.
She did tweet some cryptic. She had put out some cryptic tweets around the time The Mandalorian was filming, and then more recent reports say that she is coming back as Bo-Katan Kryze, which would be so cool, especially now that Moff Gideon we've seen has the Darksaber. We don't know how, but last we saw Bo-Katan had the Darksaber in Rebels. Sabine gave it to her. Bo-Katan has united the Mandalorian clans. Fast forward, 20-ish years, and Moff Gideon has it. So how did that happen? I can't wait to learn more about Moff Gideon himself. What happened to Darksaber, and if Bo-Katan comes in, that sets up that conflict.
Didn't I read somewhere that that Esposito kind of hinted that Gideon may have Force abilities? I thought I heard.
Yeah, there's lots of speculation. Does he have the Force?
Yeah, I think he could be doing it to throw us all off.
But as we've seen, you don't need the Force in order to wield the Darksaber.
No,
no.
So here's how I'm looking at season 2 for Mandalorian, and we'll get into the biggest casting rumor in just a sec, because the most important casting rumor in many ways. We're just going to prolong it as long as possible.
I know. We like to keep our audiences riveted.
I think my biggest criticism for season 1 of The Mandalorian was we had fantastic bookends for the season. The first 3 episodes, the last 2 or 3 episodes, all really, really good. And it had what I think is a problem many shows struggle with during season 1, which is great. We've got a strong start and a strong end. We need some stuff for the middle. And so you get a lot of what I would call episode of the week or monster of the week, challenge of the week, whatever it might be. And those episodes are fine, but they're bottle episodes. There's not a lot that changes within them. Knowing Dave Filoni's involved and getting more involved, going into season 2, I wonder, often you'll see a similar pattern, but going into season 2, you're going to start to look to how do we grow that? And so I wonder if we get the Darksaber arc, where we get Bo-Katan showing up for 2 or 3 episodes where we deal and go farther into that part of the plot. The second season is also where you get to expand on the lore. And Gideon and the Darksaber, you could carry more than even 3 episodes, but I could see a solid 3-episode arc dealing with that backstory without resolving it. And we know from the end of season 1, one of the Mandalorian's goals, and I forget his name. Is it Jin something?
Jaren.
Jin Jaren. So one of his goals is to reunite the child with his people. And we could be seeing more of Yoda's race, but I think that's unlikely. The other possibility is I could see, again, a 2 to 3 episode arc, which is as he searches for the child's kind, which would take you straight to Ahsoka, who, of course, rumored to be played by Rosario Dawson.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm sad that Ashley Eckstein isn't playing her. But on the other hand, Ahsoka. I cannot wait. It sounds like she's going to be in the show. Who knows though? We have no idea. This is just, pure
Speculation.
rumor and speculation at this point. But if it happens, oh man, I would be so excited. I love Ahsoka, and we saw her at the end of Rebels, and that's it. So we don't know what happens.
And then there's the additional rumors that we'll start to see Thrawn or Ezra show up to resolve those plots. And really, I blame all of this on Dave Filoni, who showed us with Rebels that, look, anywhere I can fit in characters that I know people love, I will fit them in.
Right.
And not just squeeze them in, but make it work somehow.
And season 2 is usually when he starts.
Yeah.
Yep. No. Season 2 Ahsoka for Rebels. Season 2 Ahsoka for Mandalorian.
Right.
Good point.
That's kind of his style. Season 1 is you set up the show and those characters. Season 2 is you start bringing in more of the other characters you know and love. Now, the one wrinkle in this is that now with Disney Plus, it'll be interesting to see, with so many potential shows on the horizon, do they try to resolve those stories in The Mandalorian, or do they do them in standalone shows, or do they introduce the characters in The Mandalorian to get all of the not people who have not watched the animated series and then spin off their own show?
So
I think it's what they're going to say. Sorry, but I literally think it's what you're going to say. I think the smart thing to do in this case, you've got everybody hooked on The Mandalorian. You're going to start introducing these characters in season 2. And if you want to keep the service going and you want to tell good stories about main characters, it's hard to take an Ahsoka character or a Bo-Katan character or any other strong character and tell that story within The Mandalorian. You can kick their story off, but as you know, the characters can come and go. And if they leave The Mandalorian, you've got a good storyline heading that direction. So
I think it's interesting because this is when Disney first bought Star Wars. I think everyone expected they were going to try and follow the Marvel route. And at the time, the Marvel route meant multiple interconnected movies and weaving. And Star Wars went a slightly different route, which I think was probably the right choice, although they've had certainly struggles along the path of, we're going to have our sequel trilogy every other year, and we're going to have the anthology films in the interspersing years. I think Star Wars has struggled a little bit in terms of the movie universe. And I think, and if I were Disney, and if I were looking at, someone like Dave Filoni, who's been super successful, Jon Favreau, who has lots of success, obviously, in the Marvel universe, I'd start looking at how can we apply some of those lessons and some of those learnings to Star Wars. And if they're not going to do it in movies, starting it in TV, just in terms of, hey, let's have a TV universe going where characters and people can move between, I think starts to be a real possibility. We're already seeing pieces like that with the Clone Wars growing into the Bad Batch.
I'm going to take this tact. I don't think Star Wars is the type of franchise in which you can get a bunch of characters, tell one main story, split it all off, tell different stories, and then bring them back together again. I think when you take a look at the original 9 films, the original 6 films, you had basically 3 main characters walking through that. Han, Luke, Leia. Okay? And that's what made all those stories great. So to take Star Wars and do these big groups, split them, and bring them back together in movies, I don't think it's going to work.
So what I'm more picturing is, it's actually, I saw this great graphic on Reddit once that talked, it was lines for characters, like a timeline view of Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and so on. Marvel very much does this, you're right, does this kind of interweaving of characters do a thing, they split off, and then they immediately come back together for the next thing.
Right.
I'm more picturing, I'm going to call it more Lord of the Rings-esque, where you have groups of characters, maybe a bunch of them met at one point or close to each other in the Mandalorian's part of the timeline, and then they split off and go and do their own thing. And they may not come back together at all, and maybe some of them do or don't. But I think it's part of, I think one of the biggest challenges with especially with the sequel trilogy and Solo and Rogue One, is everything feels so tight. Everything is so closely connected. I expect to see them solve that through the Disney Plus television universe, whatever you want to call it, where, hey, let's introduce characters and then have them go off and do their own thing. And it's a way to introduce people to the characters. Everyone's watching Mandalorian. If we introduce Ahsoka here, we know we're going to catch people and they'll go and want to watch the Ahsoka show.
Right.
We don't have to solve everything in the inside of the Mandalorian. They don't have to keep coming back together, but it's a great way to launch and introduce characters and have interesting crossovers occasionally to kind of help the universe feel connected while still being super expansive.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so much potential, and I think the Mandalorian season 2 is really, I think, what they're going to use to launch a lot of these stories, and get people really excited. It'll be interesting to see who they bring back, in season 2. Yeah. There's a big cast in season 1. Will we see characters like Omera or more Paz Vizsla, or is Fennec Shand? Is she alive? It looked like she was dead. I think some of the other characters more like, Pelimoto we're probably not going to see again. Some of these may be more one and done. Sounds like Bel Burr may be back as Mayfeld. Last we saw, he was in a New Republic prison with Xi'an and Berg. So we'll see what happens there. But there's just a lot of potential. The only thing I'm sad about season 2 is that unless somehow they figure out a way to solve this, Quill and IG-11 are still dead, which I loved those two characters in season 1.
I would love to see IG. Oh, I'm blanking on what show. Sorry, I'm thinking of The Flash actually from on CW. Like they have the Wells character that always comes back, same actor, but always like slightly different personality. I would love to see that happen with IG. Like, oh no, this season that's not IG-11, that's IG-12, and like just a kind of a twist on the character in a different way to explore it.
Now, Tom Cavanaugh is really good in that for The Flash, and that would be fun if they did something like that in Star Wars with like you said. Make him IG-12 this time or IG-13 because he's bad luck.
And I just part of that's selfish because I want to say Taika Waititi come back, not just as a director and writer, but also as he did such a great job.
Yeah.
So, well, I think we've just about reached the end of this panel. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to go around. We could talk about The Mandalorian all day, but we're going to quickly go around. We have 3 more short. But we're going to quickly just tell where you can find us. Of course, we are part of the Ion Canon Podcast over on the Star Wars Report. You can listen to talk about this kind of stuff. Whenever new Star Wars content's out, typically animation, we talk about books and games and comics occasionally as well. Let's see. We're going to go around quickly just to tell people where they can find you and the one, keep it short, the one series you would love to see on Disney Plus. Star Wars series. Steven?
Oh, you would pick me.
Well, because you know me. Anyway, you go first, and I'll explain.
So let's see. Yeah, I guess you can find me on LinkedIn or Twitter, I guess, on srice08. That's, also on the Ion Canon podcast, I guess, because that's, what we're here and doing.
Yep.
And I mean, but if you were here for the pre-show, we were talking about I was talking about my love of Thrawn. I would love to see a Thrawn series on Disney Plus. A Thrawn Ezra series Ezra can be there. I don't actually care as much, but I would kill for that. Set in the Chiss Ascendancy in the unknown regions.
Yeah, I'd agree with him.
Tom?
Okay, as for me, you know what? If you want to follow anybody, follow my dog. She's Sabine Wren 2 on Instagram. Okay, because I really don't Twit, I don't Instagram, I don't Facebook. I'm the old guy of the group. So just follow my dog. She's right there. And it is Sabine Wren 2 on Instagram. I would love to see Thrawn. Ascendancy, read the Thrawn books. And that's my plug.
Thanks. And I'm Master Devla on Twitter and most social channels, DEVWI. And I mean, obviously, I think Thrawn, Ahsoka, Sabine series is top of my list, but I'll go different one and say I would love to see more of like Maul post Solo and maybe some Kira. That would be really cool as well, or something.
Kira would be good.
So yeah. Well, we have 1 minute left, so just want to make sure we plug the Make-A-Wish again. Go to bit.ly/FF Make-A-Wish to make a donation and help some kids. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks for joining with Forcefest. Thanks to the organizers of Forcefest for having us on. This was a fun time. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. and enjoy the rest of Forcefest 2020.
Thank you.
I think even Peel would have enjoyed it.
Oh, we had to. Oh,
I had to throw in the one even Peel joke. I'm sorry. If you're looking for more even Peel jokes, check out the Ion Canon Podcast because we have our eye on the canon of Star Wars.
It does not get any better than that. If I would have known, I would have grabbed my even Peel leg on and would have popped him up at the same time. But he's locked right now. But, oh God, well, that's great,
again, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to y'all later.
Thanks.